Welcome to Mean Age Daydream with me, Brian McWilliams, where we're going to be making some jokes, laughing out at broken world, but also laying out some philosophy for the future, how we can fix this mess we're in and have a great time doing it all with a Mean Age Daydream. What's up, buttercups? Welcome to Mean Age Daydream. I am, of course, your bald, beautiful host, Brian McWilliams, and I have missed you. I know. I'm coming a little late again today with the show. A lot going on. Had a little tummy bug. In me. I know. Sucks. But here we are together again, you and I. Welcome to the show. I was laughing my ass off at a clip that has make the rounds, right? It's from one of the most leftist show hosts that has, I would say, ever existed, which is tragic because Stephen Colbert, the now infamous Stephen Colbert, who had the dancing needles to try to get people to get jabbed during COVID. Well, he decided to have a journalist on, quote unquote journalist from CNN. And I wanted to start the show with this clip to get us on the right track, to get us off on the right foot, because it was one of the most rewarding moments I've ever seen in television, in live television, which was this gal. What is her name? I can't remember the name of the gal. Well, whatever. She's a pretty host from CNN. Dana, I think something or other. He has her on in front of his ultra liberal studio audience, sits down and introduces her. And this was the response that was received. And her reaction to this response was even funnier. So here we go. Let's give it a ride.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. No, I know. CNN makes it. I know.
Is that supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
There you go. I guess it is. Oh, let me close this window now. Love when that happens. I mean, look, I told you, I'm white-pilled on a lot of things right now. I think this is an example of being white-pilled. When you've got Stephen Colbert's ultra-leftist audience openly laughing and mocking Stephen Colbert when he says that CNN strives for objectivity, the whole audience laughs. I mean, the guest on there, whatever the fuck her name is, who cares? When she goes, was that supposed to be a laugh line? And he goes, well, I guess it is. Number one, perfect response to that, because even Stephen Colbert knows how biased and slanted the media is. He works in the media. He is part of the problem. So naturally, he knows how slanted CNN is. But it's just perfect. It's a perfect moment in time. Yeah, you guess it is. CNN is a joke. It's a joke. You can tell everybody an apple's an apple, but you know what? You having to say, right? Y'all remember that stupid ad CNN ran? This is an apple. We're going to tell you it's an apple because an apple is an apple. Really? Okay. If you had to tell us that, you've already lost. You know, it's like it's like when, if people that are trying to change genders to go out there and go, it's ma'am. It's ma'am. Okay. If you have to say that, you're clearly not selling it. You're not selling fish to steal a line from 90 Day Fiance. In which there was actually a very sweet trans woman who was on there. Of course, man presenting as a female, but that's what this person, I guess, in the trans community, in the male to female trans community, it's called selling fish, if you are convincing. And I thought that was a hilarious line. Well, CNN, you're not selling fish, man. People smell that stank and they know it's not authentic. So, wonderful way to start the show, get us off on the right foot of a nice wake-up call. Unintentional comedy from Stephen Colbert, which is really the only comedy you find on Stephen Colbert's show anymore, since it, of course, is written purely for people on the left. Now, guys, before we get into more of the show, I want to tell you real quick, on Monday's show, John had a great guest on to talk about the Above phone. We have a deal with the Above phone. If you want to get one, this is a privacy-centric phone. It operates with any of your carriers. You just put a SIM card in, protects you from people tracking your phone, protects you from attacks, protects you from virtually anything you want to be protected from by the government or independents. And this now you can get $50 off by using our promo code, which is Lions. Go check the show links and you'll be able to find that link. Go grab yourself an Above phone. Okay, on with the show. So, as I titled the episode, there has been an interesting movement from Kamala Harris's Secret Service people. And this is, I guess, about a month old now. And I was looking at the original story from this, which was from Spectrum News in Worcestershire. Worcester? Let's see. Where is it? Well, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But they're essentially, Kamala Harris had gone to Massachusetts in Pittsfield on July 27th. She held a rally there, and the owner of 413 Salon found out the next day after the Harris rally had happened that not only did the Secret Service break into her salon, but did so for the explicit purpose of allowing people to come in and use her bathroom. Now, I will go out on a limb and say that as a libertarian, our presidential candidate, should they ever get Secret Service protection, they're not going to tell them to go and break into a bathroom or break into a private business in order for people to go in and take dumps. I like to think that it was because Kamala Harris had abusive diarrhea that was just running through her body. She's an angry person. I'm sure the diarrhea is explosive and nonstop coming out of her. I mean, is there any doubt that this woman there's either one way or the other that Kamala Harris shits can go. They're rock hard every time, right? And that's why she's so mad. She's got hemorrhoids that are dangling, or nonstop diarrhea because of a terrible diet, which may or may not include various substances that Willie Brown still has coursing through her body. So those are the two options. The fact that the Secret Service busted in to this private business, and then here's what really pisses me off. It's not just the violation of a private business. It's not just that the government thinks that it has the authority without, and again, you're supposed to have a warrant to enter a private residence or a private business, right? There's no reason for these people to pick the lock or kick the door in, which is what they did, to go into a private business and then have the gall to cover up all the cameras. So they go in, they break and enter. Then you've got, I don't know if it's the same female service member that was seen badly protecting Donald Trump, but another female Secret Service member is on the cameras putting up tape over all the cameras so they couldn't see who had broken in and used the facilities. They will tell you that this was done for security measures because we can't have people spying on this. Maybe there's an attack on this bathroom that we didn't know was being used and you broke into to use. They'll say it's security reasons, but the fact is they didn't come out and admit it until after the fact, until after it was called out. This woman says she was violated, disrespected, and totally blown away that there wasn't permission granted or even asked to go into the bathroom. Yeah, no shit. And then to tape up and never really apologize for anything, right? They didn't offer to pay for the damages. They didn't pay for the alarm bill. Didn't offer to have the salon cleaned. No, just a pure presumption that you are that their beck and whim, right? You are there to be used and abused. And I don't know this for sure. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that knowing what we know about Kamala Harris, right? And knowing that we know her staff is abused, they have been on record. There was, there are hit pieces coming out every week, it seems, where people had quit her staff and we're talking about how abusive, horrible, just intolerably nasty, stupid Kamala Harris is. Is there any doubt that Kamala Harris turned to their Secret Service and said, I got to take a shit, go make it happen. I don't care. And just is screaming at people to find her a bathroom. And this is the inevitable result. I don't know for a fact. This is my theory. This is my hypothesis. But I feel pretty confident that that's what was happening. And the fact that they don't find a way to call this woman or find somebody that could allow them in and just instead break and enter shows you all you need to know, both about the way our government perceives us and the way Kamala Harris perceives us. She's trash. The government is trash. And your business is simply a toilet for them to shit in. It's really a perfect metaphor, if you think about it, of how the government views not only you, but your business. You are a toilet for them to shit in. That's it. So happy Kamala Harris duking in your bathroom day, everybody. Okay, next thing I want to move on to. I did not get to watch the entire Donald Trump, Elon Musk conversation. I was going to tune in. It happened to be at the same time that we had a strategy call internally with the LP. So it was, initially I was going to watch it live. Then I heard about the tech issues. it did sound like Donald Trump was slurring. People were saying he didn't have his dentures in. What it turns out to be, because I saw two different versions of this, is something was going on with X's compression and the audio. That's why it sounded so funky and messed up. Maybe this has to do with the fact that they had what Elon Musk is claiming is a DDoS, a denial of service attack on Twitter at the time this was set to take place. Do I 100% believe that? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe if he can release some, and maybe he has, and I just haven't seen it, some official documentation to say, yes, we were attacked, then I'll believe it completely. At the same time, it's not out of the realm of possibility that not only government actors, but independent actors like Anonymous or whoever else, or, you know, whatever liberal dickery is out there, would want to interrupt the, quote, greatest threat to democracy, unquote, says the Democrats, that has ever threatened our country, going on the largest platform and the most important platform, which is X, to talk to one of the most powerful men in the world, aka Elon Musk. It's not a surprise that somebody might try to stop that. The question is, who? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Democrats had people on their side that are very adept at undertaking this type of attack. It wouldn't shock me in any way if it was an independent organization or government. But that being said, didn't succeed, right? The fact that this had to happen in the minds of some people, combined with the fact that, what's this guy's name? Hold on. Thierry Breton, right? Thierry Breton, the European regulator who has made a vendetta of going out of his way to try to mess with Elon Musk, to threaten Elon Musk, to try to find Twitter for quote unquote disinformation, misinformation, hate, whatever you want to call it. The fact that this jerk off, when he heard Donald Trump was going to go on X to just have a conversation with Elon Musk, decides that he has to issue a threatening letter, which, by the way, apparently is now being walked back and condemned by the European Union. They are saying, or the European Commission, they're saying this did not go through leadership. He did not have permission to write this letter. So this guy's basically operating on his own, right? He's taking a rogue agent perspective. And let's not forget, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And this piece of human shit that wants to undertake the most massive censorship complex that the world has ever seen, if you think about it, right? European Union, well, maybe Russia probably was larger and is larger than Europe put together. So I guess their control under Stalin and communism probably a bit more, as that of China. But the fact that this fucker has so much power and has such an ego and such a hard-on for censorship that he feels he can send a letter to Elon Musk warning him that he is going to be assaulted by the regulators of the European Union. And this is, I'm trying to get this thing to get large enough that I can read it. So here's what he says in here. I'm writing to you in the context of recent events in the United Kingdom in relation to the planned broadcast on your platform of X of a live conversation between a U.S. presidential candidate and yourself, which will also be accessible to users in the EU. I understand you're doing a stress test of the platform, yada, yada, yada. But I'm compelled to remind you of the due diligence obligations set out in the Digital Services Act, as outlined in my previous threatening letter. Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but again, using the Digital Services Act, which is a censorship document, which is essentially lays out that they can demand, because of misinformation, hate speech, whatever else it is, that platforms censor their users, censor their content, and if they don't, they will be fined regularly, right? This fucker is using Donald Trump coming on and protests in the UK. That's what you're going after, guy? Protests in the UK? And let's not forget, what are the protests in the UK over? Mass migration, attacks on culture, violence in the street, upticks in rape. And now, in response to that, what did the UK do? Threatened its own citizens and started arresting people for memes, for reposting a blog, for reposting a meme that is quote unquote hate speech or could lead to hate. The most subjective, open-ended language possible in order to terrify and subjugate your population. This fucker is using protest in the UK as a reason to threaten Elon Musk hosting a presidential candidate in the United States for a conversation. Is there a more slippery slope? you see the designed use of language here. You see why the Digital Service Act is an affront to any thinking individual who understands that the threat to free speech is this. The threat to a free society depends on free speech, right? Free speech is how you allow people to evolve, to communicate, to threaten the government with new ideas and concepts, to expel, bad politicians by virtue of winning over public sentiment, by changing ideas so that these people get ousted and new people can come into office. You see what the design is here. The Digital Services Act is simply to protect the status quo and to threaten anything that could upset the apple cart. X is the biggest threat. X is the upsetting of the apple cart. X is equivalent to the printing press fucking coming out, for Christ's sake, because it has democratized information flow. And I saw there's all these hack articles that have been written and studies. Oh, well, we have seen an uptick in misinformation on X. Yes, you have. Guess what? The uptick on misinformation is because of the mass amount of users that are on there sharing their opinions, and not all of that's going to be accurate. Some of that's going to be memes. The whole thing about Tim Walz chugging horse cum is a joke. It was a meme in response to the rumor that was spread by JD Vance fucking a couch. Now, there was no threat to anybody spreading a rumor about JD Vance, was there? No, because this censorship always goes one direction. But the fact remains, the misinformation on X has expanded, but you know what? It hasn't expanded at the same velocity and with the same veracity that truth has expanded on X, that different opinions have expanded on X, that fact-finding and corrections and community notes has expanded on X. That's what terrifies these people. It's not people using the F word or the word that ends with a got. It's not that threatens them. It's not misinformation that threatens them. What threatens them is the acceleration of truth that is on X, the accountability, the real-time reporting, the real-time sharing of opinions. The lack of control over the narrative is why these people are scared of X. That's why the Digital Services Act exists. It's why the United Kingdom has fucking meme police. That's why. And every time these fuckers send another letter to X, every time it gets blown up, every time we get to make fun of them, every time more memes go around about the UK trying to extradite people to the United Kingdom because they posted a mean meme, is a new wake-up call to all of us. It's a showcase of how evil all of these acts are and how they have to be struck down. I'm curious to see. I gotta say, I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the UK. If the UK goes along, rolls over, and allows this meme cop bullshit to go forward, rest in peace. It's done. You've lost. Your country's over. I mean, literally, violent revolution. That's your only option because you've lost. I've not seen new protests in the streets. Maybe I'm missing out on something. Maybe it's just not getting reported. But it's despicable. And the fact that people can go along with stuff like this, I mean, you saw at least in Ireland when they tried to put a similar service in place, a similar crackdown in place, it got rejected. Their prime minister had to quit. Yet you're not seeing that in UK, in the broader UK, I should say. That's frightening. But God bless X. Maybe these people don't have to post their own memes, but as long as they can access it, they can certainly read. They can certainly talk in private, can't they? They can certainly coordinate. They can certainly voice opinions that maybe bring back the old social clubs, right? Meet the old channel. Anyway. So, censorship Nazis versus Elon Musk, one of the great battles of our time, high entertainment value, and really cannot be overstated how vitally important a battle this is turning out to be. But I didn't get to watch the whole thing with Trump. I saw some of the highlights. I don't know. I have a hard time really getting into it and really caring that much. I see so much Donald Trump everywhere all the time that him speaking on X, while it's a novelty, I'm glad to see that the platform is being promoted in that way. I'd like to see it used in that way. I don't care. I just don't care enough to watch it all. I know enough about what Trump's standing for. I do like, though, that recently Donald Trump has gone out of his way to promote the eradication of the Department of Education. I like that RFK Jr. is on board with that. I'm curious to see if Kamala Harris will jump on this concept as well, since apparently she has no real ideas nor platform. Let's remind everybody, she hasn't done a single interview and still has no agenda on her website from all reports that are coming through. The media, of course, doesn't hold her accountable in any way. But she did jump on no taxes on tips, which, of course, has been a long-term libertarian concept. No tax on anything. I know. Yes, sorry. It's Shumaro. Yes, I know. More Do Nothing Man. I have one in the works. Apologies. I have a Do Nothing Man. It's going to be coming out soon. I promise. Okay. My libertarian superhero, Do Nothing Man. So it's fascinating, and I've said this before, that Trump's come around to let's eradicate the Department of Education. Now, there is no defense anyone can make for the Department of Education. The teachers' unions might try. The politicos that take money from the teachers' unions may try. Democrats may cry about it and say, oh, my God, what will happen to public schooling? But public schooling still existed before the Department of Education. It just was under the states. And since 1980, it has been nothing but the most obvious failures across the board. America excels in nothing. There's nothing you can point to that America's gotten better at in regards to educational outcomes. In fact, it has spiraled so fast. I mean, you think 25 years, that's a good long time to have at least a snapshot of success or failure. It's not that long a time to have an unbelievable pit of despair created in regards to mathematical comprehension, reading comprehension, critical thinking skills, basic reading. I mean, here in California, hardly any of our kids can fucking read. So what was the response from the Department of Education and the schools? Oh, that's right. To eradicate testing that would hold people accountable. To eradicate in many state school districts. So again, returning it to states ain't going to solve this problem, guys. But guess what will? If you get rid of the Department of Education, you get rid of that bullshit funding that they get. Now you're holding your taxpayers are going to hold you accountable, right? Certainly hope so. But the eradication of grading. I'm not fucking kidding you here. Eradication of grading. In California, they get rid of A, B, C, D, E, F because you can see the accountability. You can see, oh, my kid's not doing well. They got a D or a C or an A. No, they went to pass, fail. Pass, fail. And on top of this, what do they do with the different school districts? Oh, that's right. They eliminated different requirements for showing up, for fighting in school, for being on time, for completing assignments. They eradicated all that for certain students that happen to fall into certain racial categories because, the trauma of George Floyd. There's nothing the Department of Education has done, nor most school districts, to be honest, have done that we can point to and say, wow, look at this fantastic success. In the meantime, we can point to it and say, look at these fantastic failures. Look at the emphasis on DEI nonsense, on hiring administrative staff, on brainwashing and indoctrination over actual factual education in anything that matters in any way, shape, or form. And in the meantime, everyone else across the world has managed to surpass us. The concept of American excellence and what was that? God, there's a specific phrase I can't think of at the moment. American, well, excellence in every way. That's really fallen to the wayside. The only thing America's good at anymore is getting into debt. That's pretty much it. Everything else we fail at. Think about it. Industry, failure. Economics, failure. All right, we've got a big military. Is it an effective military? Doesn't seem so. We seem to be losing in every single battle we partake in. And in the meantime, leaving all our arms across. I just saw the Taliban today did a parade with all the military equipment that we left behind in Afghanistan. So that's a great look. American exceptionalism. There we go. You know what the new American exceptionalism is? We're good at everything except. And that except encompasses literally everything. We're not good at anything anymore. A lot of that starts with the Department of Education. A lot of that starts with de-emphasizing on school choice, on individual outcomes, on risk-taking, and a full emphasis on let's put all these turds in one bucket and allow them to fester. And that's what the Department of Education has basically done. All right. Moving on. I do want to talk a little bit. Oh, wait a minute. I skipped something. There was something else I wanted to talk about here, and I completely fucking forgot what it was. Maybe it'll be a shorter show. I really cannot think of what the last thing was I was going to talk about here, guys. Hold on. Let me check something. Let me check something real quick. Otherwise, I'll just end up ending the show quickly because I can't think of what the fuck it was that I was going to talk about here. Such is life, though, guys. Well, in the meantime, I'll tell you, check out my other podcast, the First Episode podcast. It is a television review show. You will love it. It is hilarious. Oh, Cato. That was the last thing. Thank you. Cato. That's what I want to talk about. So this has to do with Kamala Harris, right? I had gotten massive amount of response, likes of this because the Cato Institute wrote a whole commentary article about Kamala Harris and how Kamala Harris has a real opportunity to run on immigration and how she should run on immigration reform, even though she has done everything she can to ignore it. She was the czar of the border, right? They said this. It was reported as such. Her duties as such were as looking at the border. What were the causes? What were the problems? Let's fix it. She did fucking nothing. The border is a nightmare. It's one of the biggest issues during the political cycle, which of course the media doesn't want to talk about anymore. But the Institute here, Cato Institute, writes a whole article about how this could be her real strength. This can be how she brings America back and she can run on it and she can make it so fantastically wonderful. And look, they're emphasizing that she should be defending immigration, and that's going to somehow turn the tide in her favor, right? And that she's got all the right facts. Now, I know immigration and the border is a hot button issue with libertarians. I know that I don't agree with open border libertarians. And this is the majority of the negative responses to this was me saying, people saying, I'm not a libertarian, right? And this is the fucking retards out there that read the first libertarian book and they go, open borders. Yeah, we should have people that are crossing this. And that is the most basic bitch understanding of what libertarian concepts are, because when you take it to its logical conclusion, you realize that you do have to have private property rights, and that under a current situation with a massive welfare state, with no controls, no checks, your private property is continuously under attack and you have no safety, right? You have no private property rights unless you want to get rid of every gun law, which we don't. Sorry, we still have gun laws. Then you can protect your property. You can have all your bells and whistles. Maybe then you can have your open borders. But under this current system where we still have a massive welfare state robbing the shit out of you and destroying the value of your property, destroying the future of your society, it ain't going to work. So let's stop being basic bitches about this. But I criticize this saying, look, Cato's a fucking joke. And this is carrying water for Kamala Harris because Cato does not like Donald Trump. Plain and simple, they don't like Donald Trump. I've read their articles. They fall in the camp of anti-Trump, pro-status bullshit, right? Which goes in line with Kamala Harris. Cato has always been and still is an organization that exists to excuse the worst atrocities, the worst excesses of government, and try to put a libertarian spin on them, right? They might have an article here and there about, oh, we should rein in this, or oh, we should do that. But really, at the end of the day, it always coincides with whatever big government wants to do. It's a rubber stamp organization that is funded as such. They write articles to get their paychecks. They are carrying water for Kamala Harris. If people don't see that, because you don't have to write an article explicitly saying how wonderful Kamala Harris is, how she's got all the facts, and how she's going to be this fucking savior. Do you want to be more transparent than that? Into where you're fucking breading your butter, right? And under Kamala Harris, there's no fucking way the border situation is going to get better. I don't care what rational recommendations you may or may not make here. You're basically going down the path of, oh, well, let's hope and pray. Let's put a gloss sheen on Kamala. And just like the jerk-offs of the world, like the Josh Eakles of the world, who have suddenly decided that they have to, out of the good conscience of their heart, vote for Kamala Harris, which makes no sense. Because there's no world in which Kamala Harris is good on libertarian issues at all, except the new one she just adopted, which is no taxes on tips. The obvious sheen they're trying to paint on Kamala Harris here is clear. Cato's disgusting. If you don't understand what they're trying to do here, if you don't understand that you have to have some critical thinking when it comes to who's being promoted, who benefits from that promotion, and look to the deeper seated issues here and the more likely outcomes of this, I don't know where to begin with you. I just don't. And this is the problem I have with a lot of, quote unquote, philosophical based libertarians, not based libertarians. Those are the good ones. But these lefty libertarians who will latch on to this dumbass shit and somehow defend it and think that they're in the right when really all they're going to be doing is leading into more big government. And with the border, as I've said before, let me remind you of this, guys. Here's what's going to happen when you have a current state of affairs. If you have an open border, which we essentially did for a while, what ended up happening? We did have massive rise in crime. You had massive rates of, spending on, like, I'll give you an example, right? This is a tax on you. Your rights, your taxes are under attack. New York City is a great example. New York City is spending $5 billion to address the immigration issue. They aren't prepared for it. They weren't prepared for it. It's overtaking facilities that are being used by the citizens. It's basically taxing the entire infrastructure of that city. Explain to me how this is good for private property. Explain to me how this is good under libertarianism. Because if you don't have a system that's set up for it, if you have a system that is dependent on paying these people, paying for these people, housing these people, giving them all these allocations, giving them places to stay, you are infringing on the private property rights and the public rights of everybody in that society. Is this not fucking patently obvious to everybody here? And yet these people are going to tell you, oh, no, it's a good thing. There's no downside to this. We have to have these things. It's libertarian philosophy to do this. So what ends up happening, right? You're spending billions and billions of more dollars. Your public is less safe. Your institutions are getting overrun and crumbling. Now, if you have open borders and this continues to happen, what then are the public going to cry for? The average public, think through your brains. Is it going to lead to more or less authoritarianism, having mass immigration like that? I'll tell you what people are going to call for. They're going to call for the National Guard to be deployed. And California, liberal-ass California, deployed its National Guard to help with the border. It's going to lead to people calling for the military, the National Guard, more policing, more deportations, a massive expansion of ICE, which is one of the things that, yes, Donald Trump is talking about. You get more authoritarianism because our system is it's not set up to handle it. Mass migration of this nature is not something that we can do right now under the current system. So for you to fucking call for it like an imbecile is not going to result in a kumbaya, open, everybody's happy and go lucky and trading and having a good old time. No, it's going to lead to more authoritarianism. It's going to lead to massive militarization of the border, and it's going to lead to a massive crackdown within cities, within your town, of people using authoritarianism and then using that same fear of what's happening with mass migration to put into laws, to put into censorship, to put into, just like in the UK, you can't criticize immigration, guys. Get arrested. To put in more security, more cameras, and just like with the Patriot Act, right? More intrusions into your personal privacy and intrusions into your civil rights, because we have to solve this crisis. And then once it's solved, we never get them back. Use your fucking brains before you espouse this stupid ass bullshit because you read one fucking book on libertarianism. Think about application in the real world, please. I beg you. Okay. Namaste, everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. I now have to get a shitload of work done since I was sick yesterday. You can subscribe to our channel, Lions of Liberty Network. Please do follow me at Brian McWilliams on Twitter. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals.com. And as I said, don't forget, if you want to get an above phone, you go to the show links. You can get in on that hot action as well as some other discounts. Civilization's falling apart, guys. Expat Money Summit, check that out as well. And of course, if you are in need of an alternative to health insurance, you could check out crowdhealth.com. All of that is in the show notes for the episode. All right, guys. Bye. From me, Brian McWilliams, from the Lions of Liberty Network. And from Mean Age Daydream, keep those electric eyes on me, babe. Keep that ray gun to my head. Bye.